Australian Aviation Podcast, the official podcast of Australian Aviation, unpacking the latest insights, developments and issues impacting Australia's aviation sector.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam Thorne and welcome to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I am joined as ever by my favourite co-host, the Air Services calming dog. I am also joined by, this time, a Asahi Dry. For those of you watching on the YouTube, you will see that I am going to be intoxicated soon. That is because one of our special guests this week refuses to record a podcast without a beer. My kind of guy, David Hollingworth. David, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Now, the reason we have David on the show is that David runs the website Cyber Daily, which is basically Australia's kind of foremost website on cyber activity, on hacks, etc., etc., etc. I'm sure you will have guessed why we've invited him on the show.
They're putting two and two together as we speak.
They're putting two and two together. We're also joined by, I can't believe we have to do it with him again. We're also joined by our third co-host after the dog and after David, Jake. Jake, how are you?
Oh, I'm okay, Adam. They borrowed me for Cyber Daily last week, so I figure we get to steal David for this one.
Yeah. Now, people that are watching this on YouTube will notice that there's some kind of like rat creature under your nose. Just you look like a kind of English general from the olden times. What are you doing? Why are you looking like this?
Well, it's don't get used to it, Adam, because it is going after the show. But this is for Mr. Salt in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Russian peanut billionaire.
That's a sentence I never get tired of.
Yeah, it's a good sentence, and I get to sing in Russian accent. Get to sing about what Varuka says, which is inevitably things like more and now and bye,
and eventually, oops.
Sometimes,
yes,
yeah. So this is just for the show. One of the advantages of being able to grow facial hair very quickly is that you can adapt it for musical theatre. So it's kind of an edge case. But I have. I mean, as long-term listeners will know, I have played an English Major General before. I was Major General Stanley in the Pirates of Penzance.
Yes, and I saw that.
Major General, yes.
The Major General, the modern one. I also played, right before that, General Genghis Khan Schmitz in Seussical, who scares children out of their wits.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
An easy acting job for you.
Yeah, no, I was worried about being typecast for a little while there, Adam.
Right.
But no, both of those were fun roles, and Mr. Salt will be a fun role. And if as you're watching this, that's the camera that I'm talking to. As you're watching this, tomorrow, it's Tuesday as we're recording this, but tomorrow, Wednesday, so today, as you're listening to this, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory opens in Linfield. And tickets are $30 for the first two nights.
How do they get tickets? You can do a plug on this. How do they get tickets? Is there like a website to go to or thing to put in Google? Yeah,
just Google Western Sydney Musical Theatre, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and you will find it. You'll find the Instagram, you'll find the Facebook, you'll find the link to buy tickets. It's going to be a great show. We've got a great cast, and we've got a fantastic Willy Wonka, and we've got a fantastic everyone else, and the set is looking amazing, and the theatre is looking amazing, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be scrumdiddlyumptious and snoztacular.
Excellent. Well, have we got any other shout-outs before we start talking about the Australian Aviation Summit Awards?
No, probably.
No. Well, you should be attending. I don't know, where's the camera? For those on my YouTube, I've got to look down the barrel of the camera. You should be attending the Australian Aviation Summit and Awards, because the Australian Aviation Summit is headlined by the maestro, Alan Joyce. He will be making one of his first public appearances since he stepped down as Qantas CEO. He will be talking about guiding the airline through COVID and all manner of crises. Everything he learned, he'll be passing on those lessons. We also have a fantastic lineup of speakers that you can find out more about by going on our website, australianaviation.com.au. That will be happening on August the 14th at the metro station, not actually in the station,
correct,
as Jake will say, but above the station in the Illumina fancy pants event space. That's happening during the day. In the evening, we will have the Australian Aviation Awards, which is one of these, swanky black tie dinners. Obviously, if you've been nominated or if you've been shortlisted, you should be coming along. But even if you haven't, you can come along anyway. It's a good opportunity to meet me, meet Jake, have a bit of a laugh, a few drinks, etc., etc.
Meet David, maybe. He might
maybe.
You never know.
Maybe. I mean, if you want to come,
I'll give an award, that. I'll show up to anything. Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, come on down. It will be a good laugh. It also pays our bills as well, keeps me and Jake in a job, which is always good. So yeah, go to our website, find out a little bit more about that. We didn't have any other shout outs at all, Jake? No abuse, doing people on touch with us with anything.
No, let's go over the top, lads. Straight on into the news. Tally ho.
This is nonsense.
What?
This is nonsense, right? Well, we will steam into the news. Obviously, the Qantas hack has been the big story of the week.
We covered that last week, but there's been more and more developments.
There's been more and more developments. So I think maybe if Jake, if you could tell us from an aviation point of view, kind of what the latest is, and then we'll go to David to kind of talk a little bit more about sort of the hack itself and what we know about that. Jake, go on, get us going.
Yeah, there's been a few things that have come out. You reported, Adam, that Qantas is going to tell the victims of the hack details of what specific data was taken. Now, I believe we already know that, no passwords were taken, no PINs were taken, frequent flyer accounts and everything are safe.
That's what Qantas says anyway.
That's what Qantas says. No bank details, but it is stuff like, names and dates of birth and phone numbers and things like that. And David, you guys at Cyberdeli, this was, I think Daniel put up this story, but apparently there's been the potential attacker has contacted Quantis.
Yeah, so Qantas released a statement today. I may as well read it out now. Potential cybercriminal has made contact and we are currently working to validate this. But because it's an active investigation with the Australian Cybersecurity Centre and the Australian Federal Police involved, they're staying quiet about it. So basically, what we know is we know it's probably Scattered Spider. That's the best guess right now.
So you obviously do like the Cyber Daily podcast. Yeah. Your like listeners are quite esteemed people. Our listeners, they're idiots. They're thick as hell. They're morons. They are, because this is rubbish, right?
Tough crowd.
So we're going to have to dumb it down for these people. So effectively, a hacking group goes in, they steal the data, they then get in touch with that company. Is that for like a ransom?
That's a ransom, absolutely.
Right.
They are extorting the company. Where to start? Scattered Spider, not what they call themselves. Scattered Spider is just the attribution that various security analysts have given
They sound really cool, by the way. I know we're not allowed to say
this
that.
Very loose hacking collective. They probably all operate at different times. They're linked to a number of other outfits. They've been known to use a ransomware operation by the name of Dragon Force. Also sound very cool.
Yeah.
Scattered Spider, Dragon Force.
They should really start giving these cyber criminal stuff like less cool names if they want to stop people from using it.
Well, you see, Dragon Force named themselves, so that's their brand.
Okay.
Scattered Spider is like, scattered means one thing, spider means another. It's the attribution of these threat actors is wild. But the one thing we do know about them is they are English speaking, which is rare in this because often they're Eastern European or somewhere in Southeast Asia, but a lot of ransomware operators are Russian. But these guys are English and they are hyper proficient at social engineering. So their initial access is almost always they'll talk to somebody over the phone, they'll pretend to be someone they're not, either an employee seeking assistance from the help desk, or they'll pretend to be the help desk themselves. And that's how they get in. The initial hack isn't of systems, it's of people.
I find this really fascinating. So we don't know exactly what happened, but the reports say, as I'm sure you're aware, that effectively this group, just like that, maybe use an AI voice or whatever to trick somebody in their Manila office into divulging crucial information that therefore allowed them to get all this other information.
Now, Adam, just to jump in, you did put up a story the other day, the Manila call center not responsible or not, at fault for the attack.
So basically what Vanessa Hudson has said is, so effectively some of the criticism has been, if it had happened in Australia, we wouldn't have had this on home shores. But Vanessa made the point, well, actually, this is a global problem. Just the week prior, it happened in the US. So you can't necessarily say because it was a Manila office, it would be less secure.
No, 100%. These guys are good at what they do. They are specialists in this kind of social engineering. And because they are English speakers, they don't necessarily need to use an AI voice like any other, a foreign hacker would. So they can call up, go, hey, I'm Larry from accounts. I've been locked out of my system. Can you change the password and tell me a new one?
Yeah.
And then they get those new credentials. They use that to get into the network. Or if they're pretending to be a help desk themselves, they'll say, hey, this is Larry from the Quantis help desk. We've noticed your machine is not operating properly. Download a remote desktop tool and we'll have a look at it and fix for you. And once that tool is downloaded, that gets them into that system, and they start doing what's called lateral movement. That's when you move from one computer across to another computer on the network or other devices on the network. And that's when you get the data, and that's when it's either encrypted or stolen.
Yes, hello. I'm the Qantas data inspector. I would like to inspect your customer data, please.
I mean, you joke, but so it's. I saw one wag refer to it as a wallet inspector hack. You know, wallet inspector, show me a wallet, and dude runs off. It's kind of like that, but. Kevin Mitnick, a famous hacker who passed recently, social engineering was his thing. He always said that once he got in contact with someone who was talking to him, he knew he could get in. Yeah. Because tricking people is easy, especially when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, we don't know for certain, but what would be the motive of ScatterSpider? Is it money, or do they just want to watch the world burn? Like, what is?
I'm going to say a little of from column A and a little from column B. They definitely want money. If they're in contact, then they're probably in contact demanding a ransom.
Yeah.
The thing about ScatterSpider is they don't operate like a regular ransomware group. 99% of ransomware groups they'll run a leak, what's called a leak site on the darknet.
Yeah.
And basically
Again, just really cool name.
Leak site on the darknet. Yeah. And the way these work is so the hackers break into a company's network, they encrypt data on those systems so the company can no longer operate day to day, and ScatterSpider are known to do that. And they steal data as well. So this is what's called a double extortion system. So they go, hey, give us money so we can unlock your data. And if you don't give us money, we'll also publish all that data online. ScatterSpider don't do that second bit. They don't publish data online. They don't have a leak site. They don't have that kind of presence to name and shame somewhere. So they're a really, really unique group. They're skilled, they're English, and they operate weirdly. Yeah.
They're skilled, they're English, two things that are rarely heard together.
Yeah. I knew you were going
to go there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing I was going to ask you is that, so basically David works with another one of our colleagues, Daniel, on Cyber Daily, and almost on a daily basis, they are reporting firsthand on hacks. And this is because they will see the kind of websites where these kind of proof of hacks get posted up. And very often, you guys are the ones that call these businesses, whether they're large or small, and almost deliver the bad news. They may know it, they may not know this. And one of the things I find really fascinating is your kind of philosophy almost is that the companies that are getting hacked or the people that are getting hacked are the victims. They're not the bad guys, and you always go into it with that mentality. However, when we've seen the coverage of Quantis, particularly from the national press, it's been very aggressive against Quantis. It's almost like, how dare Quantis allow this to happen? Yeah. My view is that's a little bit unfair. These are hugely sophisticated hackers. But what's your view on this? Because the new CEO has got, destroyed, apparently she was on holiday. She didn't care. How could this happen to Qantas? It's someone that's, doing these stories day in, day out. Are Qantas to blame, or is that fair or not fair?
I would say there's probably an element of truth to both sides of that, but I err on the side of Qantas in this one. So there is a common saying in cybersecurity about being hacked. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yeah. It is going to happen. And not because you're being technically targeted, although again, ScatterSpider has this really odd habit of going after particular industries. So a couple of months ago, it was UK retailers. And, they knocked over some big name UK retailers who are still recovering from those attacks.
Did they do the M&S one?
They did Marks and Marks.
Really?
Yeah, they did. Same group.
They're absolute scum. Who are these people going after British, going after my Percy
Not
pigs?
only did they get Marks, they got Spencer as well.
Both of them at the same time. So... Where were we going?
Oh, so is it Qantas. Not? Yeah.
No, I think their response is fantastic.
Where were we going in Qantas?
Qantas, nowhere. Yeah.
We love you, Qantas.
According to what Qantas said, they noted the incident on Monday last week, and on Wednesday morning they were contacting customers. Wednesday evening they were contacting customers again to confirm that their data had in fact been compromised. Yeah. And they've already said, and this week we'll probably tell you more in detail as we work out what's going on. This kind of remediation takes weeks and months and sometimes years to work out exactly what happened. Because not only are these guys good at getting into a network, they're good at covering the tracks when they leave as well. So they will delete security logs. They will turn off security software so it can't monitor what they're doing. So the digital forensic side of this is incredibly complex. And Qantas has moved really fast to contact customers to say this happened, and they're being as open as they can. I think you've got to applaud that. And, what can Vanessa Hudson do? Come back and that's going to save everything?
Yeah.
No.
Because it looks to me
the
like...
horse is bolted.
Yeah. It looks to me like...
I mean, she needs a holiday at some point, right?
Well, exactly. I just sort of feel the way they've handled that is almost... I say it's different to maybe what would happen in the past, but she's clearly been really, really on it. I don't think they've really put a foot wrong. And the other thing as well that the press is almost glossing over is that these guys, they haven't got credit card details. They haven't got bank details.
Yep.
That's the thing you don't want to lose. Yeah, and I kind of feel like what I'm doing off the top of my head is they've got like emails, basically, frequent flyer numbers, but telephone numbers.
Frequent flyer numbers is probably the most worrying thing.
Yeah.
Because with that number, so most people are really lazy with their password security.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody's frequent flyer number, there's a good chance you can brute force into their frequent flyer account by just plugging in any number of 100 commonly used passwords. 1, 2, 3, 4, I guarantee you, would get you into a lot of people's frequent flyer accounts.
Credential stuffing as well?
Credential stuffing, absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of stuff that can be done with that data.
For the class, what's credential stuffing?
Credential stuffing is...
Yeah, I've no idea.
All right, so your credentials, your name, password, and login details. These are regularly leaked online, gathered together into what's called huge combo lists. If you go
Sounds
to a
like something you
website...
get at Macca's.
It is. 5 big combo lists, thank you very much. They're sold online, very much like fast food. And these can be hundreds of thousands, millions of sets of names, passwords, and logins. And what you do is you run a simple script that will go through all of that and plug in, brute force those millions of names and passwords, combinations into a website until 2 or 3 get in. Our readers, your listeners, your viewers, all 3 might remember Australian superannuation funds got hacked a little while back. That was a credential stuffing attack. And that's why it was only like 2 or 3 people got impacted, because only 2 or 3 sets of credentials actually worked. Everything else bounced off. So yeah, that's credential stuffing. And it could be used, the data in this could be used similarly with the combo list. I'm sure you'd probably get a few hits on that. But yeah, we're also just, at this stage, we're relying on Qantas being correct in what they're saying about the data that's been compromised.
I mean,
I would say,
David, why does credential stuffing work?
Because people are idiots?
Yes, but in what specific way are they idiots?
Because they commonly reuse passwords. They'll use the same... I do this as well. My
we all
password
do this,
security
don't
is
we? All
terrible.
humans do this, yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do. So you just hammer away with all these passwords, and eventually all it takes is 1 or 2 of them to work, especially if you're hammering away at the super fund account of someone who's just about to retire, and you manage to get that money out fast. Done.
I kind of feel the response to this from the mainstream media has almost been hysterically harsh on Qantas, because I kind of think of it in terms of, obviously I wouldn't want anyone having my bank details, but how many companies, how many people have got my email, how many people have got my phone number, how easy is it to work out someone's email, within seconds. And I'm almost so let's just say minimum 100 companies or places have got my basic data. Almost certainly one of them has been compromised in the last year or 2.
Absolutely.
Surely. So I'm kind of a bit like, it feels incredibly unfair that there's this almost hysteria and attacks at Qantas when I know it potentially could be bad, but it's the lowest tier of data. It feels like Qantas have acted quite quickly. It all feels a little bit harsh on them, like they kind of sent blood because everyone's angry at Qantas forever.
It's easy to get angry at a company for a data breach because, you trust the company with your data. You hope that company then values that data and secures it. The problem is there's a third faction, if you will, and that's the hackers. These guys want it.
Yeah.
So
in the cyber criminal justice system,
as I keep saying, these hackers are competent technically and socially. So it's not like they're just trying to take advantage. These guys want it in, and they're going to be very, very hard to stop.
Yeah.
And even incompetent hackers can still get a hit in now and then.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've seen hackers not even recognize the company they've hacked, and they've mistaken it, even though, So
I got my Discord account stolen a couple of years back by some little toad from I don't know where he was, like Turkey or somewhere, who played League of Legends. That's the thing that rankled about it most. He was a League of Legends player,
and now people think you're a League of Legends player.
Yeah, I managed to get it back, but it was several weeks of stress.
Yeah. Look, I think the other thing to remember about a lot of this data is, so we know it's linked to the frequent flyer program, right? That is data all of us have voluntarily given up to get those frequent flyer points. Qantas hasn't taken this from us. We gave it to them.
Yeah.
Every loyalty program you're a part of, you have voluntarily given your data to someone, which means you're giving up control of it. People need to understand that They want to control their data. Understanding who holds it is a very, very important thing. And if they're worried about their data being held by companies that might get hacked, then they also need to look after their own personal security by having multi-factor authentication or strong passwords or all of that. Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of this data, most people have been involved in 2-3 big Australian data breaches now. If you go to a website like
Have I Been Pwned?
Have I Been Pwned? Which I recommend everybody listening go to because it'll be an absolute eye-opener. You go to this website. Have I Been Pwned? Pwned spelled P-W-N-E-D. You put in your email address and it'll tell you how many data breaches that email address has been in. I'm in 17.
Wow.
Yes.
And you're probably more cautious than most given your job.
You'd think that. But anyway, moving right on from that one. But 17. Everyone should look at that and realize, I've been in so many data breaches before, and then you end up with what's called data breach fatigue. People just get lazy about their own personal security because they figure, the hackers have it anyway.
So what should people do, what can our ordinary listeners do, David, to secure their data and keep their accounts safe?
Change every password you're using right now. Go to a passphrase. At the very least, if you're using Chrome, for instance, let Chrome create a strong, unique password that it remembers and you don't have to. Use a password manager. Really, really good stuff. Always turn on multi-factor authentication so that if somebody is trying to get into your account, you will get a notification on your phone going, hey, someone's trying to access your account. Let them in. And you go, well, it's not me. No. They're the basics. They're the absolute basics, and everyone can do that right now. I don't know if the frequent flyer program has multi-factor authentication off the top of my head, but just changing your password there, which is what Qantas is recommending people to do, by the way. Do it. Do it right now. It's easy. It costs you nothing. And whatever data these guys might have, if they do have passwords, well, if you change your password now, they can't get in.
Well, on that note, that was very good advice. And I want to thank you, David, for joining us. You were great.
My absolute pleasure. Anytime.
I've
You're better than
noticed.
Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I heard you.
I look forward to the next airline hack and choice. I mean, no.
I have noticed as well that this moustache for fans of Marvel does make me look a little bit like J. Jonah Jameson.
Who? Who's he?
Bring me Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm about to say, David. We want to know everything we can about these hackers. Bring me pictures of scattered Spider-Man.
Well, off to the news front lines.
Right.
Thanks for having me,
yes,
guys.
Thank you very much. We will be back after this short break to talk a little bit more about the news. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, welcome back. So unfortunately, David has left and I am simply left with the riff-raff that is Jake Nelson.
He's returned to the dark web.
I see we did that. Right, what are we talking about next?
Well, there's some news from I believe 3-time Huey laureate. If you
Huey
count.
laureate? Oh,
Yeah.
get over yourself! What a load of rubbish! Laureate.
Winning once in its own right, once alongside Skytrans, and once in conjunction with the entire rest of the sector.
Does that really count though?
Yes.
Could you actually count that? Oh, this is nonsense.
So, Hinterland Aviation, the regional airline based in Cairns, is up for sale. The owners, John and Peter Christudius, are bowing out. They've owned the airline since 2015. So 100% of the business on sale through William Buck, which is an accounting and advisory firm trading across both Australia and New Zealand. So this will include, the entire fleet, including 13 Cessna 208 Caravans. There's some other aircraft as well. I think there's maybe some Beechcraft in there. A pair of Sky Couriers are on order. And it's essentially we spoke to Andrew Clare, who's the CEO of Hinterland, and he said, for over 2 decades in regional aviation, and especially over the past decade, John, Nick, and Peter, the Christudius brothers, including Nick, who sadly passed away a few years ago, have poured their hearts into building something special here in Cairns and far north Queensland, not just a business, but a service that truly supports regional communities. He says that the business is looking for new custodians who share the same values, people who understand the importance of regional Australia and have the energy to take the business even further.
How much moolah are we talking? If I want to buy an airline, how much is it going to cost me roughly?
Well, I'm not sure if there's a price tag. I think of offers are open. There's a sales flyer that's gone out, basically saying that regional services demand in far north Queensland is on the rise. Hinterland Aviation, it says, has earned the trust of these communities by delivering safe, reliable, and consistent operations, as evidenced by its Huey Award. They didn't say that part. I added it. But interesting times for Hinterland Aviation. This comes, of course, just over a year after Skytrans was bought out by Avia Solutions Group, which is this global aviation firm, which has added wet leased A319s to its operations. I think it's got 2 of those in Australia at the moment, at least. And it also comes, of course, as Rex is still up for sale, and we're still looking to see who might come out owning Rex. So regional aviation seeing some big shakeups in these past couple of years.
How old or new or young is Hinterland's fleet? Obviously, because I say this, obviously, the issue with Rex is that their aircraft are very, very, very old, and they are in desperate need of a fleet renewal. Like, presumably, Hinterland is in a slightly better position.
I'm just checking.
He's desperately now quickly rushing on to check this, probably on, what's it called? Planespotters.net is the easiest one to do that on.
So Hinterland has...
Live journalism.
Hinterland has 13 caravans. It has, I think, has or did have a couple of Beechcraft King Airs. They've got a number of... they've got a number of things on order. Unfortunately, I'm not logged into Flight Radar here.
This is rubbish.
So I can't.
No.
So I can't check how old the Hinterland Aviation fleet is off the top of my head. But they do have a bunch of caravans and grand caravans, and they've also got those Sky Couriers on order. And so when the Sky Couriers show up, they will of course be very, very new. The newest whiz bang sort of things that Cessna has.
Whiz bang Cessnas.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they will go more whiz and less bang. But
yes.
Yeah, they've got a pair of these Sky Couriers on order, and are expecting them, I think, by this year or next year, I think.
Well, if you could get onto the owners and the current owners and forget a ballpark figure, I mean, I'll have a think about whether I put a bid in or not.
Yeah, I mean, might as well, right? But it'll be interesting to see, maybe who comes out of the woodwork to buy Hinterland, because we've been keeping an eye on the Rex situation for a while, and there was the possibility that Hinterland was saying, maybe we could take over some of Rex's routes if Rex goes under, and now Rex has sort of been propped up for more than a year now since it went under by the government, and there's people have been putting bids in on Rex. It'd be interesting, for example, if this dark horse candidate that's been trying to buy Rex, Renaissance Partners, who wants to the people who want to start this new TAA, it'd be interested to see if they want to throw their hats in the ring.
Because presumably, if they bought Hinterland, they'd also get the air operator certificate, which is effectively,
you'd assume so.
Which is effectively the kind of the main license you need to get you going, and it's also the one that takes quite a lot of time to get.
Yeah.
They'd also have access to effectively like the infrastructure of an airline that obviously they're planning something bigger, but would massively help them get going and would massively speed up that process. So if you were them, like you say, it would make sense. There is a airline with probably younger aircraft, a more modern fleet on the market. It would make sense to have a little look at that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just check to see if there's any information on like plane spotters or whatever about Hinterland Aviation's fleet. What's this? Airhistory.net.
This is live journalism. This is the nitty gritty of the trade.
Okay, so there's Cessna Titans. There's a couple of caravans. There's like one registered in August 2000. There's a Titan registered in May 2008. June 2002. So there's a few that are out there that are certainly they would be younger than Rex's fleet, I would imagine, but it's difficult to check because I can't log into Flight Radar.
Whiz bang Samsung S9,
it's not the fault of the tablet. It's just I don't have the login details for Flight Radar on here.
Right. Right. If only we had our cybersecurity expert who just
just hack into Flight Radar. It's fine.
Yeah, he really run away. Right. Okay. You made a pig's ear of that. What are we chatting about next then?
It's been something of a slow week this week. We've had some news on MH17. There was an order by the ICAO to negotiate reparations, and they want Russia to make reparations for the downing of MH17. You might remember shot down over Ukraine in 2014, killing 298 people, including 38 Australians. and it was found that personnel that had been supplied with Russian anti-aircraft weaponry in the area had shot down the plane. Foreign Minister Penny Wong came out and said that the ICAO Council has ordered Russia to negotiate with Australia and the Netherlands on full reparations for the downing of MH17. She said, "We welcome this decision. Australia stands ready to engage. We call on Russia to comply and make reparations for this horrific act." She said, "We remain unwavering in our commitment to truth, justice and accountability for the 298 victims, including 38 who called Australia home, and their families and loved ones." And, rightly so. I mean, this was a very horrific crime that was has been pretty comprehensively linked to Russia and to weapons supplied by Russia for this for the conflict. And this was before the current conflict, all in the build up in the sort of I think the Donetsk region, but it was comprehensively linked to Russia and to separatists that were backed by Russia, and so Russia ultimately bears no small amount of responsibility for this, and it is only right that they should be made to make it right.
So I know, previously Russia's almost been kind of officially or formally kind of found guilty of this, or have been found, like you said, we're linked to this. Presumably, in terms of actually getting Russia to pay reparations, that involves Russia actually doing it and that actually happening. It is a different thing. But I suppose at least the families of involved have some kind of closure that this is the kind of the finding that they should be doing this.
Yeah, and fingers crossed that. I'm not going to hold my breath, but fingers crossed that Russia can be made to cough up.
Jake, what are we going to talk about next? It's been a difficult news week, I sense. I went to the second break quicker. We're trudging through this.
There was something that you covered the other week, Adam.
I don't want to talk about this.
And a bit of an update on the space side of things.
Go on.
Gilmore, I understand it, an Australian space company.
Yes. So basically, Gilmore Space Technologies, which is run by the founder, Adam Gilmore, they are attempting to do the kind of first orbital launch of a rocket in Australia. And I think it's like 50 years, or the first attempt. So when we talk about orbital launch, we mean a rocket that actually goes to orbit, that goes to proper space, rather than a suborbital launch, which is essentially where the rocket kind of goes up and comes down, and it's a bit of a test. So this would be a kind of landmark moment for the Australian space industry. We have a number of spaceports in Australia, but this is the kind of the only company right now actually making kind of sovereign rockets in Australia. Now, Gilmore have been working on this for a long, long time. They had hoped initially to launch, I think it was in April last year, but they had trouble getting their kind of permit from the Australian Space Agency. They finally got that kind of the final clearance at the end of last year. So I think initially this year, they aimed to launch in May. They had a kind of minor technical problem. They had to, as they call in the space industry, scrub that launch. So they were going to launch again or make a second attempt early last week. That was kiboshed initially by wind. They then had an attempt to launch on Thursday last week. They kind of cancelled that they didn't really say what the reason was. I think they gave some kind of reason like, the team deserve a weekend off or something. But kind of
wasn't Kookaburra implicated at one point or something?
At one point for the initial delay. Yeah, I like the Kookaburra, to be fair. They sound like, they also look beautiful and a very unusual sound. So essentially we're now looking at a launch, I think off the top of my head, it's like July the 14th or July the 16th. Basically, they're having another go in a couple of weeks. The issue with this is that, as they always say in the industry, space is hard. And if it doesn't necessarily go up, that's not a knock at them. It's almost like that's half expected. If it does go up, it's almost certain to fail. Adam Gilmore, the founder, has said that himself. In fact, if it can fly for, say, 30 seconds, that's actually a really good result. And what it means is that the rocket will be kind of full of sensors, etc. So they will learn a lot, even if it goes wrong. Now, the point of Eris, it's called, which is their first launch vehicle, as they call it in the space industry. It will be capable of launching small satellites. Now, effectively, back in the day, satellites were quite big. Nowadays, they are a lot smaller, effectively the size of a shoebox. And at the moment, we have SpaceX, who are focusing on kind of larger satellites, or, ride shares of smaller satellites. You've got Rocket Lab in New Zealand, who are focusing on smaller satellites. But other than that, there's not a huge amount of global competition. So Gilmore is hoping to kind of fill that hole. You've got a lot of demand now from people that want to launch satellites. Whereas it used to be nation states, and then maybe TV companies. Now it's universities, it's SMEs. All kind of companies have a need now to have satellites in orbit. And that's only going to grow over the next 10 years. So if Gilmore can pull it off, it will be a really, really, really big deal for the whole country, actually. Obviously, in order to do this as well, they have to get approval from CASA. That usually takes 2 weeks to do a launch because obviously you're sending a rocket up. But it was, basically another delay from Gilmore. If they do pull it off, it'll be a major moment in Australia's aerospace history. So you put me on the spot there, Jake, but I do know what I'm talking about. So yeah.
So hopefully we get a happy Gilmore story soon.
Oh dear, that's the only reason you brought that up, isn't it?
No, there is another reason. The other reason is because I really like that the rocket is named Eris, which is the Greek goddess of chaos and discord and strife. Yeah. And so if you want something to move smoothly, you maybe should not name it Eris.
Right. Yeah. No. Good feedback.
She was, of course, responsible in mythology for the Trojan War. She had the golden apple, and she tossed it into a meeting between Athena and Hera and Aphrodite, and the golden apple had "for the fairest" written on it, or Callisti in the original Greek, and they got to arguing. And then she turned it to Hector, I think, of Troy, who to judge who the fairest was, and they all made their offers. And Aphrodite offered him the hottest woman in the world, and he was like, "I'll have that." and so he said that Aphrodite was the fairest, and he went and kidnapped Helen, who was married at the time, and then Trojan War.
Did you ever get that show from the UK called QI with Stephen Fry?
We did.
Yeah,
get QI.
And he'd also come up with all of these clever facts and stuff. So it was kind of descended into that, which is a good thing actually, because generally the show's just complete rubbish, but it's kind of got a bit highbrow now, like actual interesting insight and facts and trivia and things.
Yeah, so the bottom line is, if you want your rocket to go smoothly, don't call it Eris.
Who was that meant to be?
Was that Stephen Fry? Was that not Stephen Fry?
Maybe. It sounded a bit more like Boris Johnson, to be honest.
They don't sound dissimilar.
Nah, I don't know. I think maybe work on your Stephen Fry impression. We'll come back to it again next week. I mean, I can't knock you. Do about 200 impressions or something. Right, we've probably got time for one more story. You've got one more, or is that it?
Just wanted to, I guess, thank we got a premium podcast up over the past week. Interview I did a couple of weeks back with Melissa and Keith from Air Services. Mel working in the Melbourne Tower, and Keith working as an aviation rescue firefighter. It was a really fun interview to do. And so if you are an Australian Aviation subscriber, it is behind the paywall. You can go and listen to it now.
Look at the background here. This is for the TV series.
This was from the TV series, Airport 24/7, which is I may still be airing. I think it was a 10-part series going behind the scenes at Melbourne Airport. That's on Channel 10.
They'll be on the what they call it, the catch up.
Yeah, the 10 play or whatever it is. And so those interviews were of Mel and Keith, who were featured on the show. And you can get to hear a few of their insights about what it was like. Appearing on that show and what their day-to-day life is like at Melbourne Airport. We had, a few laughs and a lot of interesting insights along the way, Adam.
Who do you think's a bigger celebrity? Those two that are on the proper telly, or you as the co-host of the Australian Aviation podcast?
Yes.
What do you mean, yes? Who's a bigger star, you or them?
We're all stars, Adam.
Right. But if you had to choose, do you think you're a bigger star than them on this or no?
I couldn't possibly comment.
Yeah, that means
they've also been on the Australian Aviation podcast.
That's true, to be fair. Yeah. So therefore, they've probably won. All right. Well, on that note, we will wrap up the show. Jake, do you want to say goodbye?
Sure. Goodbye.
Right. I'm going to say goodbye. We will be back the same time next week to talk more nonsense. But from now, for me and Jake, goodbye.
See ya.